Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Flagrant Talk Sports Podcast. It's me, Isaiah, back with another March Madness video. Today, we are going to be going over three of the biggest winners and losers of last week. We're going to look at the games that they either won or lost, the games that are upcoming for them, and their overall resume, where we'll go through quads 1 through 4 and see how these wins either really help them or hurt them as we get closer to seeing those brackets. So, if this is your first time on the channel, welcome. We can't wait for you to be a part of this community and to keep checking out our March Madness content. And if you're a viewer who's tuned into our videos in the past, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in again. This is a new video idea, so if you guys like it, please feel free to let me know, and I can make this a weekly thing heading into Selection Sunday. But without further ado, let's get started with my first winner. The Texas Longhorns, they improved to 16-10 this week in a hard-fought SEC. And their two games that they played, they got absolutely destroyed by Alabama. They lost by 23 points at home. The Crimson Tide hung up 103 points on their head. That's clearly not why they're a winner this week. It is the 82-78 victory over the Kentucky Wildcats. This is a top 15 win for them, a big resume builder, as they're a team that's kind of teetering on in the bubble, on the outside, like they're right kind of in that mix. So anything they can do in this super highly competitive SEC will go a long way. They're going to have games against the Gamecocks, the Razorbacks, the Bulldogs, and then the Bulldogs again with Mississippi State and Oklahoma down heading into the SEC tournament. If they can get a key win against Mississippi State, if they can hold off another one of those bubble teams, or really three of them in Georgia, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, those could go a big way into building this resume further, which leads us perfectly into what they're working with right now. They're sitting at 4-8 in quad one after that victory against the Wildcats. And while in most years, being at 4-8 isn't this sexy thing in quad one, with how competitive the SEC is, you're going to see a variety of teams that are below 500 in the first quad still make the tournament. And you might even be surprised by their seeding. The Longhorns improved to 31 in the net. They're 5-8 in conference, but man, that Kentucky Wildcats victory is a big one. Looking at their whole resume, you now have quad one wins over Oklahoma, Missouri, A&M, and now the Wildcats. All of these are great victories that will help kind of top off their resume. In quads 3 and 4, they are undefeated at 9-0 combined, which is great. 3-2 in quad 2. That loss to UConn at home really isn't that bad. It's a single digit game. And the loss to the Razorbacks is more tough because while they're surging when they picked up that victory, this is a team that's in the bubble. They're behind the Longhorns. They're still chasing them. But having that win for the Razorbacks, we will see how that impacts the rest of the season. As Calipari said, they need to focus on themselves and picking up some victories because they are running out of time, and he's absolutely right. On to my first loser, the UConn Huskies, 17-8 now on the season, and this comes after a disastrous loss on the road in overtime against Seton Hall. To say that this is a loss you cannot take is an understatement. This is a quad 3L that you take. They now have lost 2 of their last 3, and while the St. John's one isn't bad because they've been great, even though they picked up a loss this week as well to Villanova. And even though they picked up a victory over the Blue Jays this week, which is a great one, that Seton Hall loss is terrible. The Huskies are still totally in the tournament. Don't get it twisted. They're still good. But in terms of playing for good seeding and going into the tournament with some fire, we'll have to see. They're going up against a Nova team next, who's feeling, I would imagine, very good after a win over St. John's, and then playing St. John's after that. Then should be able to rack up some wins against Georgetown and Providence before going to face Marquette and hopefully get that redemption against Seton Hall to close their season. They need to go into that one and win by 20 and really show we're good. We're in a united front. They've got the games to stick it out and be totally fine. And they're still in the bracket if it were to come out today. Um, Looking at their resume at large, they dropped 4 spots in the net from 31 to 35. As I said, 17-8 on the season. They're now 9-5 in the Big East. Um, you can see right here that quad three loss, and it's their second quad three loss at that, because they lost on a neutral court by 1 to Colorado earlier in the season. You've got 2 losses in quad three, which are not great, and then the 2 in quad two. The loss getting slapped around by Dayton is bad, and then losing at home to a Creighton team that is playing very, very solidly and looks to be going in the right direction heading into March. The Huskies are now 5-4 in quad one. Victories over the Zags, even though that win now isn't as sexy as it was when they beat the Zags when they were ranked 8th. Win on the road at Texas, Baylor, Marquette, and Creighton. Still in a good spot, like I said. However, that loss to Seton Hall is inexcusable. There's nothing you can say to justify it. You cannot lose a game like that, especially as we're in the middle part of February, right? In a month from now, we'll have a bracket. Can't be losing to Seton Hall, who is nowhere close to a tournament level team. Heading on to another winner, the biggest winner. We could keep this one short and sweet. This is the winner of the week, the Auburn Tigers, 23-2 now on the season. What more can you say? Bruce Pearl has got his guys on fire. Looking at their entire season here, they've got 2 losses to Duke and Florida, who are both in running for 1 seeds. And this week, after that Florida loss, went 2-0, beat Vanderbilt, took care of them, who is another SEC team, big surprise, who's competing to stay in this mix, and then really controlled the Tide and beating Alabama on the road. They took control of that game and they handled it the entire way now. This is an incredible season for the Tigers. They are the heavyweight. If I were filling out a bracket today, I'm picking the Tigers to win it. They haven't given me a reason to not trust them or worry about them as we're heading into March. Their next game is against Calipari and the Razorbacks, who, like I said, really need some key victories here if they want to find a way to weasel into the tournament. They're going to have games against Kentucky, A&M, and Bama to close their season. I made note of that. Those 3 games are massive. At that point, they're playing for pride. They're playing for numbers. And these are big wins for those opposing teams, but the Tigers are comfortably a 1, and I would be shocked if they don't end up the 1 overall seed when we are getting the brackets announced. Look at this resume. Just take a hard look at this. Undefeated in quads 2 through 4. And like I said, your losses to Duke on the road by 6, and Duke is probably a 1 seed. I'd say I would be shocked if they get anything less than a 2 seed in this tournament. And then you have Florida, who could very well be a 1 seed in this tournament in the SEC. And at worst is what, a 2 or 3? Those are your losses. You're 14-2 in quad 1, 6 wins above the next closest program. At this point, they have a wiggle room to lose a couple games down the stretch, and they'd still be a 1 seed. And they could probably lose 2 of those final 3 games and come out as the number 1 overall. That is how good this resume is. What a year. There's nothing else to say. The Tigers are the winner of the week with that victory on the road against Alabama. controlled them the whole way. Janai Broom, what a stud. Um, On to the next loser. The next loser here, we have SMU. We have the Mustangs, 19-6 in the ACC. They're one of those bubble teams, right? And you'll see here a lot of those losers are teams that are hanging on, or the winners are teams that are hanging on in the bubble. At this point in the season, that's what's dictating my winners and losers as we're going through these weekly. Um, this week, you had a nice victory against Pittsburgh. You should win that. You take care of business, smack them around by 20. Very good win. They were surging, right? This is a team that was on a 5-game win streak. And then you lose at home by 11 to Wake Forest. And mind you, Wake Forest is a bubble team as well. And while the loss itself is not bad, it's the lack of opportunities that they have upcoming to add some fire to that resume that we're going to look at is pretty damn weak. If I'm a Mustangs fan, I'm getting a little nervous, right? To end the season, the big one here, Clemson. If you can beat Clemson at home, that is a great victory against a tournament team that is playing some good basketball right now. You can't drop any bad losses to any of these other teams. You got to beat Notre Dame. You got to beat Cal. You got to beat Stanford, Syracuse, Florida State to end the year. But that Clemson game, you need to win for this resume, which we can take a look at here. 0-4 in quad 1. You're 14-0 in quads 3 and 4. Those are nothing burgers, right? They fall into 41 in the net, dropped 4 spots. And normally 19-6 and 10-4 in the ACC would be enough to be comfortably in the bracket. But this isn't a strong ACC. This is a very top heavy one, right? Duke, you've got Clemson, Louisville has looked very good this year, but it's not this super strong one. You've got Wake Forest in the mix, and that's really it's not this deep ACC pool that we're used to. So 0-4, you've lost to Duke. That's fine. That loss to North Carolina by 15, bad. That's not a good loss. You got smoked at home by Louisville, and then lost a tight one by 5 to Mississippi State. They're running out of time to pick up these quad 1 wins. That Clemson victory needs to come. 5-2 in quad 2 as well. You took 2 double-digit losses to Butler and Wake Forest this week, which is why they're really sitting here. They needed that Wake Forest win just to stay on track, and their back is very much against the wall. You need to close the season strongly, and you need to rack up some victories in the ACC. You can't go out early, right? So we've got the Mustangs down but not out. They are still in a position where they can make the tournament, but that loss to Wake Forest makes it tough. It's undeniably a tough spot. Um, next up, we have Michigan. The Wolverines are 19-5 and one of my favorite teams in the country. I said it in the bracketology video, but the more I see from this Wolverines team, the better I feel. They're playing at some of their best basketball right now. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them go on an Elite 8 type run as we're going through this season. This is now 6 victories in a row. They went 2-0 this week. A great home win against Purdue by 2. As Purdue was ranked 7th and Michigan is 20th this week. They're undeniably about to move up. And then a great win yesterday against the Buckeyes on the road. The Buckeyes are a team that is fighting to stay in the bracket. Bruce Thornton came up short on that game tying overtime, ability to take it to overtime. And now the Wolverines have some opportunities with Michigan State. You have Nebraska, who's looking like a tournament team, even though they got smacked around this week as well. You have games against Illinois, Maryland, and Michigan State. They have plenty more victories where if they can remain hot, the sky's the limit for their seeding, right? I think it's totally possible that they end up as a 3 seed if they're able to rack up these victories, but you got to win them first. It's easier said than done to go on the road and beat a Michigan State or even a Nebraska who is fighting to stay hot here. Um, Looking at their season on a whole, and going back to that Ohio State game real quick because I have the stats pulled up. You had Wolf and Golden both with double doubles. Wolf with 17, 11, and 5, and Golden with 20 and 10. The big man there for the Wolverines, incredible. I really love the way that this Michigan team is playing right now. No losses in quads 3 and 4. You are 20th in the net, 19 and 5, and 11 and 2 in the Big Ten, 6 and 2 in quad one. Great wins over Wisconsin. UCLA is playing some great basketball. That Purdue win is a great one to tack onto your resume here. The 3 quad 2 losses are tough. The Oklahoma one, lost by 1, not that big of a deal to me. Losing a close one to Wake Forest, they're a bubble team. It's not a terrible one, even though it's on a neutral court. And the Minnesota one is tough, but the way this Michigan team is playing, as I said, looking at this, after those Arkansas and Oklahoma back-to-back losses, they've been very consistent and very good with that Minnesota loss coming in OT. I love the way this Wolverines team is playing, and they are my final winner for this video. Which leads me to, and I hate ending the video with a loser, but it's the way that it is. I've got the Kansas Jayhawks, 17 and 8 now on the season. Going back to referencing the bracketology video, I don't feel good about this team. I know Bill Self is incredible. Hunter Dickinson and the pieces on this team are good. I don't think they have title upside. And this week was a tough one for the Jayhawks as they took a bad loss to Utah on the road. This is now in their last 8, they're 4-4. So, excuse me, they're losers this week, but on the whole, it's been shaky, right? It's literally flipping a coin with what this Jayhawks team is going to do. And that Kansas State loss, right? The team is surging. They're trying to make a push, even though they lost this week as well, towards the tournament. Still with work to do, but that's when you want to get like these are tough losses, and that Utah one is not one you can take. An ugly game all the way around as well. And so when you're looking at the Jayhawks record, they're 14th in the net, 17 and 8 on the season, 8 and 6 in the Big Ten. But the big sign here is they're below 500 in quad one, 4 and 7, right? And so you're looking at the rest of their season here, the rest of their games. You have BYU. That is a very solid win. This is a teetering team that I would lean more as in the bracket than out of it. But you want to get that victory against them. Texas Tech, Houston, zone at end the year. Again, similarly to uh, Auburn in that gauntlet of final 3 games, it's the same thing with the Jayhawks, right? Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona. If you can win 2 out of the 3 of those, right? You don't need to go, if you go 3-0, damn, I feel good as you go into your conference tournament. But they gotta, I want to see them be consistent. I want to see them rack up wins and not do this flaky 50-50, even though, of course, they're in the Big 12. So we'll see now. They're 5-1. Their only loss in quad 2 is at home to West Virginia, who, people don't go into Kansas and beat them on their home court. West Virginia, I think, was underrated at the start of the year. And really, once they picked up that win over Gonzaga, I think they've been given more respect going through the rest of the season. But 4-7 wins over Michigan State, Duke, Cincy, and Iowa State. Those are all great wins. In particular, the Duke win is a very good one. Winning on a neutral court against Michigan State as well. They can't afford any bad losses the rest of the way, and hopefully they're able to pick up some wins so they can come back to form, go into the tournament, 4 seed to 6 seed. I'd imagine a 4 or 5, and have some confidence. At least for me, when I'm filling out a bracket, because as things stand, I don't feel great about it. But that's it for the video. Those are my winners and losers for this year, or for this week, excuse me. And let me know, who are the biggest winners and losers for you this week. And again, let me know if you want to see more of these videos going forward. I'd be happy to make this a weekly series, posting on Mondays for the final couple weeks heading into selection Sunday. I appreciate you for taking the time to watch. I hope you all have a wonderful start to your week, and I will catch you in the next video. Song of the pod, Summer Love, Justin Timberlake, one of my favorites. I will catch you all soon. Have a great week. See ya.